So Saturday, I'm going to say, is the big one. Ipswich visit St Mary's in the Premier League. We've also got a bit of a score to settle. The first of two teams we'll face this year. We did the double over us last season. Glen, nervous about this one already, or a chance to get 3 points on the board?
Well, it's definitely a chance to get 3 points on the board. I mean, we talked about the Man United game, and we've kind of, implicitly said that games against Manchester United are not going to define the season. At the end of the day, they're a massive club. But Ipswich, because we've lost to Manchester United and we've lost the 3 games before that, suddenly it becomes huge. We certainly cannot afford to lose it. We have to get on the board at this game. And yeah, you could argue that we really need to win it, being as it's a home game against a fellow promoted team. Having said that, Ipswich, I have to say, have looked better than we have so far. They got a very good result at Brighton, 0-0 draw, which I certainly would have been happy with. I think they've had a draw at home to someone else. Can't remember who it was. Fulham, I think. And the first 2 games they had Liverpool, Man City, so they were write-offs anyway. So yeah, they've done okay. I think even though they haven't won yet, I think Kieran McKenna will be quite happy with the start that they've made. Added a few players since last season. Calvin Phillips is the interesting one, trying to get his career back on track. And they've had a couple that we knew from the Championship in Sam Smollich and Liam Delap. So we have to hope that they can't handle the step up either. Though I think both of them have scored. Is that right?
I don't remember Liam Delap scoring. He might have done.
Yeah,
Smollich against Fulham. Yeah, you're right, Glenn. Both of them have had a goal.
Yeah, it's both of them have scored. So yeah, they'll go into it with a bit of confidence, and they'll see us as a team, obviously, that they can. They beat us twice last year. So yeah, the midfield will be interesting because they got that Sam Morsey, who's one of those players who plays with some sort of cloak of invisibility. He's about 20 fouls a game, and he gets booked once in the 86th minute. He's that sort of player. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets away with that as much in the Premier League. And obviously they're going to have him with Calvin Phillips. So that's quite a combative midfield. So Flynn Downs and Leslie Ugachukwu are going to have their work cut out with those two, I think. So that'll be where I feel the battle will be won and lost. So it's it's a big game, and I think as fans we've certainly got to play our part with that one, because we can't afford to have any negativity going into that game. And I'm quite hopeful about it. The half hour against Manchester United was the first time this year where I thought we actually have it in us to be a functioning team at this level. Obviously, we've got to do it for longer than 30 minutes, but I was encouraged by that, and that's what I'm kind of taking into this game, and the hope that we can finally get on the board.
It's a fair point, Alfie. I think a lot of us will be saying the same thing this week. Your season isn't defined by how you get on at Anfield or the Etihad or at home to Manchester United, but it is defined by Ipswich at home. There's no way of getting around that.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people are in a state of panic at the moment, and fair enough. There's 4 bad results and whatnot, but I do feel these are the sort of games where the average fan, I think, is fully behind what's happening, fully behind Russell Mind. There'll be obviously some disagree, and that's totally fair enough. But these are the sort of games where I think if you end up getting beaten at home to Ipswich, the needle just moves slightly, and people start to think, well, that's a problem. This Russell Mind likens the Man United game to the Leeds one last year, where they've been beaten 4 in a row and then they played at home and they turned it around. Well, now it's very similar to the Leeds one. It's a team that obviously they know well. They've lost 4 in a row now, and they need to turn it around now. The one thing about you mentioned the 2 strikers who've scored a goal, Sam Smollich and Liam Delap, and Liam Delap I think is a handful. We know what Sammy Smollich can do in the tier below, but this is probably the first game where I look at the opposition front line. I'm not, touch wood, I'm not tempting fate here, but it doesn't look like a front 4 where you make one mistake and they score every single time. They're probably going to be a little more similar to Southampton this season. Difference is they've got a couple of draws in the last 2 games and they've got 2 points on the board result. But I don't look at Wes Burns and Murray Hutchinson, although he scored last season, and even Liam Delap and Sammy as someone you make one mistake and you lose the game. So I think maybe that might bring a bit more wiggle room for Saints, and it might be a little bit less relentless, a little bit less ruthless than it's been in the last few games. So they have to go into this one hoping to win. They have to go into it looking to win. I think it could well be the same 11, maybe 1 or 2 changes from last weekend, depending on what he thinks about the front. Oh well, good point. Yeah, but Taylor Harwood-Bellis straight in, straight stop. Good point. But then took a couple more. Maybe does he think Ben Brereton, Diaz, Cameron Archer? Do they go again? But other than that, I think you go the same way. I think you have to win this game.
Can you sense a nervous stadium already, Steve? That first sort of 15, 20 minutes is going to be quite key.
No, I think the nervousness kind of comes as things kind of progress. I think we start absolutely fine in terms of atmosphere and I don't think that's always been the case. Like even going back like a couple of years ago when we were absolutely dreadful, the support was always there from the start. But it was as games kind of progressed and things kind of got worse and worse in terms of what we were watching. I think that was where kind of nervousness or anger or disappointment, whichever emotion you want to throw at it, because there were a whole range of them in that season, to go with the whole range of different managers and different team systems. So I think, I think from the start, I'm not concerned in terms of atmosphere and that sort of thing. I think the Northern Wall has actually been. I missed the Forest game, but I was there yesterday, and yeah, there was plenty of atmosphere for probably an hour. I think it was probably 15, 20 minutes into the second half where probably just after the substitutions, actually, where things kind of settled down. I think there was probably an acceptance that the game was petering out in the way that it did. But that's against Manchester United, where they've got quality players who can just control that game and they don't need to take any risks. United are a particularly good example of a team that when they're in a situation where they have to take risks, that's when they make a bit of a pig's ear of it and they come a cropper against sides like us. But we didn't take advantage of those moments in the first half. But I think Ipswich is a completely different proposition where when you look at the bookies probably make us slight favourites, maybe, solely on the basis of home advantage. But realistically, they're not going to be able to call it. It's not like Newcastle away, we were massive underdogs. Yesterday, massive underdogs. Forest, I think, were even slight favourites in our game, despite their abject away record in the Premier League since they got promoted. Although, of course, they went and won at Anfield yesterday, which was not what anybody
Funny.
would.
What it was.
Oh, yeah, it's very, very amusing. But yeah, I think you go into Ipswich with everyone's still supporting the team. There's nobody's given up at this stage. Absolutely not. Anybody who kind of claims that they have, it's like, well, why are you bothering? What was the point of last season? At any stage, like why would you even bother with supporting a team that doesn't win every week? Because it's there's no emotion better than when you, like in football, than when you've kind of won against the odds, and we are fighting those at the moment. And it's one of those where you do need all hands on deck. And it's not going to be the same as West Brom, obviously, but that sort of atmosphere from the start gives us the best opportunity.
Did I read yesterday? I think we lost the first 4 games last time when we came back up and finished 14th. So
yeah, it was a slightly harder fixture list there. We had City away, Man United home, Wigan home, and Arsenal away. The Man United game we should have won. Even City away, we should probably have got a point.
Yeah, we'd have all been pinning our hopes on the home game, wouldn't we? We'd have all been on that.
But actually, that Wigan game is probably that Wigan game's our worst performance because everybody lumped all the eggs into that basket, thinking, well, this is the one where we've got to get points. And it took the international break after the 4th game, where we then came back and we were awful in the first half against Villa as well in that first home game after the international break, 1-0 down and could have been 2 or 3, but we held it together and absolutely smashed them second half.
And of course, we finished 14th, so maybe that is the omen. Glenn, is this the kind of the real sort of benchmark for our progress at the moment? I know we sort of touched on the games that we weren't really expected to win, but this is where we're going to actually see where we are, where we think we are.
Yeah, I mean, I see the 3 games pre-international break. I see that as Russell Martin giving last season's players a chance, and now the gloves are off really. He's picked a starting lineup for that Manchester United game that I think most people would have picked, and I think that will be what we do going forward, except for where there's catastrophic loss of form or red cards or whatever. I can see us playing that way, and I hope that in the week coming up with the training and stuff that they will iron out a few little flaws. I mean, the one Steve mentioned about Ugachukwu and Downs, they seemed to. It was almost like they were taking turns to play number 6, and occasionally they both went. And you obviously can't do that against a team like Manchester United. So little things like that they need to iron out, and just try and get Matty Fernandez on the ball as much as possible, and try and attack more through Diblin and Brereton Diaz. Again, we did these things in the first half an hour, but then it kind of went a little bit. Fernandez's position was interesting for me because he was almost playing as a second striker at times. He was right up in support of Archer, and if he's playing that far forward, then Downs and Ugachukwu really do have to anchor that midfield strongly and not get caught out of position. So yeah, I'm hoping another week we'll see us play better. Obviously, it will be drilled into them what to do if we do go 1-0 down. Or do miss a penalty again, or have any sort of setback that we need to respond to.
I suppose the one thing that's worrying about that, Glenn, is that we had this conversation last season, didn't we? And I think it was particularly at the start of the season rather than towards the end. But we had conversations where one thing would go wrong, and then all of a sudden there'd be a flurry of either goals. Or
it's a lack of leadership, and that and there's no excuse. There's no excuse because we've got enough players. It's not just the captain and the manager. We've got enough players there with a lot of experience, like Bednarek, Walker-Peters, Downs. They're all. It's not like we got a team of 20-year-olds. They should have responded better, and there should have been a collective. I know it's a horrible cliche. Right, we go again. They shouldn't have been this, oh shit, heads down, and 2 minutes later we're 1-0 down. That just shouldn't have happened. And even at 1-0 down, there should have been this collective. Right, we're getting to half time, only one behind, and and it just wasn't there yesterday. So they do have to get that mentality right, and and play for half time, maybe waste time, get a bit more savvy about things. And that has to happen very quickly, because if we play in this sort of naive fashion like we did after we missed the penalty, then more and more games are going to run away from us. But I mean, that shouldn't, as you say, that shouldn't happen against Ipswich. We should have a bit more latitude to make mistakes, if you like, against Ipswich. But I do anticipate us being better with roughly the same format that we had on Saturday.
Something that I did pick up from Russell Martin in the press conference on that yesterday after the game was, and you can always tell, I think Russell gives a lot away by what he doesn't say, really, sometimes the players he doesn't name. But one of the things he said was that bringing in Adam Lallana and Aaron Ramsdale, specifically named those two, is what's going to help with that sort of collapse, I suppose, this season. So the fact that he specifically named Aaron Ramsdale, I think he's clearly, as you said, Glenn, somebody who is vocal in the dressing room, who obviously has untold experience compared to the rest of the group. So we just have to hope that he in particular does add a bit, and I think he will.
Anything else we need to consider about Ipswich before we do the score predictions?
Well, yeah, I don't know where Benjamin Bloom is. We had this discussion, but now they've got Ed Sheeran involved. They've gone all big time, haven't they? So
it does seem weird previewing an Ipswich game without him being on. Just
absolutely.
As far as the score predictions, only 2 people out of our 84 patrons got the correct score this week. So
Not easy, is it?
Walter Horn and Robert Atkins for getting 3 points. There are some new faces at the top of the leaderboard as well, and a few people have been asking when they can find that. We share it on the social media, so it'll be on X, it'll be on Facebook, it'll be on Instagram, usually just before the match on a Saturday morning. So have a search for @TotalSaintsPod and you can get involved there. Let's do some predictions for Ipswich, Steve.
Oh God. Sod it, we're getting off the mark. 2-1 win.
With a point, not just 1 point, 3 points.
All the way.
Okay, Alfie.
Yeah, I'm making it up on the spot, but I was going to go for 2-1, but I'll go for a 1-0 win. I don't know why.
Nil.
This is all very
I
positive.
don't know why.
I think I'll go for the 1-1 draw. We'll take a point and that'll be a start. Glenn?
I'll go for absolute carnage, 3-2 win.
Oh, nice.
Strong. All right. If you're watching,
I was going to say 2-1, but there you